What is mail fraud? Today I'm going to talk about mail fraud under the federal law, and that statute is 18 United States Code, Section 1341. And in order to charge you with or find you guilty of mail fraud, they have to allege a few different what are called elements or things that they have to prove that make up the mail fraud in federal law. The first one is that the defendant or the person being accused of it voluntarily and intentionally made up some sort of scheme to defraud another person or company out of money, property, or property rights. That's number one. Number two, that the defendant did this scheme with the intent to defraud someone or something else, like this business or the person, and get benefits or money from them and those sorts of things. Third, the defendant either used it directly or caused to be used in this scheme, either the mail, like the U.S. Postal Service, or a private interstate carrier. So, there's some companies that you can, drop something in a box and then have it sent through what would kind of be the mail, even though they're not the U.S. Postal Service, but you're all familiar with different kinds of companies that can be used to get something transported from one place to another that would be like the mail. And then sometimes they have to show a fourth element, and that's usually either the conduct of a telemarketing scheme or that the scheme affected a financial institution, which means it affected a bank, which of course is very broad. If people are cutting checks from a bank, that could affect the bank. Money transfers can affect a bank and the like that. So the phrase scheme to defraud, what does that mean? Well, that includes, under the law, any plan or course of action intended to deceive or cheat another person or a business out of money, property, or property rights by either, number one, employing material falsehoods. That means significant lies, or concealing material facts, or hiding important or significant facts in order so that that person, if they knew about those facts that were hidden, maybe they wouldn't have paid it out. Or if things are just falsely represented, that's employing a material falsehood. So it can't be a little falsehood. It's got to be material. It's got to be important enough to cause someone to act on that. It also means obtaining the money or property from another person by means of material false representations or promises. All right, so what does all that mean? What are some examples of this? Well, one thing would be a Ponzi scheme, right? That's kind of a situation where somebody sets up a fake investment scheme and they promise great returns usually on these investments. And what they do is they get other people who are new investors, they get their money and then they pay back these original investors that way. But they have to keep getting new investors to keep this scheme afloat. And eventually Ponzi schemes, of course, collapse. But for example, if that business that's trying to get these fake investments is sending out flyers in the mail, for example, that would be an example of mail fraud because the mail is being used to help this scheme continue or to begin. Fake invoices. Fake invoices can be to a number of things. You can have a company and maybe you're getting paid by government benefit programs, for example. So you send a fake invoice into the government benefit program and you claim that you did 8 hours of work 5 days a week, but you really did 6 hours of work 5 days a week. That's a false claim because the number of hours that you're asking to get paid for are not true because you're fudging on about 2 hours a day of work that was never done, or you're making up other work that was done or the number of people that were helped or these sorts of things. Those are fake invoices, but they don't just have to be to a government program. They can also be to another company, for example. It could be payroll. Maybe you write down the amount of time that you've spent at a job, and then you're mailing that out so you can get paid. And you're using the mail to do that, so that's mail fraud. We'll talk about what wire fraud means later. But if you're using the mail or a common mail carrier to do that, that could be mail fraud because if you're fudging on the number of hours you worked and you really didn't work that many hours, or the number of goods or services you provided and you either never did it or it's greatly inflated or something like that, those fake invoices could end up being a mail fraud charge. And then, of course, some loan schemes, fake insurance claims. So an example would be you pretend that your automobile was stolen. It really wasn't stolen. You sold it to a friend. and then you make a claim to your insurance company and you mail out the claim in the mail. That's mail fraud. Maybe you bought a watch for $1,000. That's the most it was ever worth. The value has gone down after you bought it, not up. And you claim that it was a $5,000 watch you bought, and you're asking the insurance company to pay you the five rather than what it was really worth, and you're doing that intentionally, and you submit that claim in the mail to your insurance company. That would be an example of a fraudulent insurance claim and mail fraud, because you put that claim in the mail to the insurance company to try to get paid on that. And then real estate fraud is another one. So mortgage applications, of course, a lot of them are electronic nowadays, but if you send one in the mail, again, and it's maybe you falsely state your income, maybe you falsely state the amount of the real estate that you want to buy or for the loan you want to get, and you make other claims about your net worth in there, or other fake claims that could lead to mail fraud. And then, of course, doing things like selling property you really don't own. There are some schemes out there that way. Again, any of that goes through the mail could lead to a mail fraud charge against you in federal court. So if you have any questions, I'm criminal defense attorney Ryan Pacyga. You can call me at 612-339-5844 or find me at arrestedmn.com. Have a great day.